That was about 2010, because it was before I was sent to the High Court bench.
Before I was sent to the High Court bench.
Yes, before to the High Court. It was 2010. Either 2009.
2009.
Let me just record clearly so that I can situate you properly. No, it was in 2009, between 2009 and 2010.
2009 long, when in 2010, 2009.
Proceed, please.
And then?
Yeah, so during the trial, Alassane, he was charged with false information.
Giving false information.
He was charged with giving false information.
Was it stated what false information he gave?
Yes, it was stated that he had the Hajj Commission.
He has misled who?
That he had the Hajj Commission. That President Jammeh authorized that they should select the cheapest egg.
President Jammeh kamale diala si kuluntila tombo menna jobe no yala kuluntila dolu beti
to leave pilgrims to Mecca. When it was in fact not the case.
And what actually happened according to the evidence before you?
According to the evidence before me,
sir, you would have to wait for the interpretation. Are you hearing the interpretation at all?
I am getting them now.
Okay, thank you. Good. Respond the interpretation. Proceed.
Very
please.
well. Now, during the trial,
I beg your pardon.
During the trial.
During the trial,
let us break it down for the listeners, for the audience. This man was charged, Mr. Jammeh, Alassane St. Jammeh, was charged with giving false information.
Silanga bonyoto jang. Alassane St. Jammeh keta modi me yalon ko ye tomiro denga kangoda wala nyindi ko ay kibar soto balole di.
And the false information is supposed to have been a statement he made to the Hajj Commission.
And ngalo kuma soto balo ye tumiro men la ka nyana kala kulte me yalon ko ay kibar le di me yalon ko be sujiri ninke makatala lo committee o mollila.
That the then President Yahya Jammeh had instructed that he hires the cheapest aircraft that would ferry the pilgrims back to and from Mecca.
Non kuma kan finde wala nyinde ko Yaya Jammeh nun to president ay kango di pour si tombonde ke kuluntila compagnie wala me lon ko wala da sone yada kat haji makatala bondi jang ay samba e murundina.
And the position of the state was that he did not speak the truth because Yahya Jammeh did not say so. Was that the case, Mr.
That was the case. Exactly, that was the case.
And you saying that was the case?
That was the case.
Thank you very much.
But more importantly,
so proceed and tell us what happened in court.
During the trial, it emerged that President Jammeh had minuted that a cheap and reliable aircraft should be selected.
Men jo sono yata kuluntila dolu beti bar satara asike jikin na kuluntilat.
I am not sure. It's not cheapest. cheap
but
and
they
reliable.
Cheap and
unreliable.
sono yata andung asike jikin na kulunti lati.
Thank you. Proceed.
10.
The secretary who wrote down that instruction
Kosi wolebe wo kumakangulu tamandila menu fota ten kalimolu menu fota.
Go ahead.
mistakenly wrote the aircraft.
Adun wo mari le nata fili ayasa feje ko kulunen da sono yata kulunti lalu beti.
And it is this information written by the secretary.
Written by the secretary.
It is this information written secretary.
Secretary of Kibaro
Go ahead.
Which Mr. Jame related to the Hajj Commission, read out to the Hajj.
Kumakan kilingo Mr. Jamme tata wole sindi hiji kafonyi commission menu marta hiji la la kuala.
And
so
Kamala
Barrister Bori Ture was cancelled for Alassana ST James.
Bori Ture wolem loyati membe loring Alassana ST Jamme yo kito.
But how did the
and at the end
how did the react to that statement read to the Hajj Commission and Sumana ST Jamme?
Silang president o membe nunjang ate munekata ala jabir me ya lon ko yola karanga ye kabo asuma alasan ST Jamme bu.
It was during the trial.
Listen to the question. The question is, how did the president act?
President nying munekata ala jabir dati.
The information conveyed by an ST Jamme to the Hajj Commission. Alassana ST Jamme to the Hajj Commission.
Alassana ST Jamme kibaro menta aya furande ni Hajj committee o molma. Munekata president manyati.
The president reacts saying that that was not the message, that was not the instruction he issued to Alassana ST Jamme. And so it was concluded Alassana ST Jamme had given false information. As a result of that, Alassana ST Jamme arrested and charged to court.
And how
now, in the course of the trial, the Chief Justice Agim summoned me office where he informed me that the president considered the actions of Alassana ST Jamme as sabotage. And wanted that I should use that case to teach me a lesson.
Andu dalilo ya sabu inyanta okito tala ka Alassana Jamme karandir la membe kala anyaye lendiramoti.
In essence, what were you being told to do?
Munta niya fonfa niya jube muna po ko be menkela.
I understood that to mean that I should convict Alassana ST Jamme regardless of the evidence.
Was
that normal?
Very, very abnormal.
Is that the way the judiciary must operate in a democratic state?
Kiti bunda nyingani wala nyanna kala tamandri silo te bankuto me alon ko demokrasi de betama kanjeba.
Even in some undemocratic states, it does not operate like that.
If I understand you correctly, you are being asked your independence as a judge to objectively look at the evidence and arrive at your own conclusion was being interfered with.
Obviously.
How did you feel when Agim told you that?
I felt embarrassed. And I resolved, as usual, to determine the case based on the evidence.
As you would be expected in keeping with your oath of office as a judge.
Oath, with my oath.
And then what happened?
At the end of the prosecution's case, and based on the evidence adduced before the court, I upheld the no case submission.
Your voice has dropped.
I
upheld the no case submission.
And what was the no case?
Acquitted and discharged Alassana ST Jame.
Woki no case submission wala nyin 2 mili moñing aman 2 mili soto ye melda kan yow safiro menke munenata na usujira.
And on what was the no case submission based?
Nyin no case submission e men dundi abe sujiri mulela.
The no case submission was based on the fact that
what
Alassana Jame had read to the Hajj Commission.
I beg your pardon, come again. Your voice has dropped.
The no case submission was based on the fact that what Alassana Jame had read to the Hajj Commission was actually what was written to him. So there was nothing false about what he read.
No, I'm not getting that. The level of...
So there was nothing false
about what he read.
Yeah, well,
so I upheld the no case submission. Alassana ST Jame.
And what happened after that?
About 1 week later, I received a letter terminating my business.
You have a copy of that letter?
I sent a copy of the letter to the lead counsel.
Is it letter reference ZF 5501118 / in brackets 2017 June 2010?
Very well.
You confirm, right? I have a copy of that letter with me. It was signed by J. Belfort acting judicial secretary.
Me later on wala je Belfort judicial secretary ya be kala faringa teleman watola.
It says dismissal.
No later on ngoro membe safirinje wala mo.
And it reads in its main body as follows.
Later on membe fudunga akono mbewala karanateng abe okono wala nyindi.
Directed by the Judicial Service Commission to inform you that you with immediate effect dismissed from the judiciary.
Ako me later on in safe modiala tariyare ngandu meyo kamodiala wala Judicial Service Commission de wala bunda membe marden kiti bunda nyaton ko ni men ka tombon droge e yamoro diala pour yala ya bay tariyare nke.
Signed by the acting judicial secretary.
Later on you may assign wala karfaro abe karfari mem judicial secretary wala later on you sign.
The typical one letter dismissing you from the service.
Later on me anko lera kirin drong wala beje rinte je ronete bayla do kola.
Lead counsel, perhaps you should emphasize that it was addressed to me.
Lead counsel mbe nyambambandila kunyi letro ya safeka kintelena.
Yes, of course. This was a letter sent you.
Thank you.
That's right. And that letter, one sentence, dismissed you from the service. Correct? Correct?
Very well.
How did you feel when you received this letter?
Was embarrassed.
Disappointed?
Yes, of course. And it also generated some fright in me.
And why do you think you are dismissed? Because no reason had been given.
Yeah, as a matter of principle,
we lost you there.
As a matter of principle,
Yes.
I went to inform the Chief Justice.
But the Chief Justice is a member of the Judicial Service and was copied.
The Chief Justice,
of course, to inform him that I've been dismissed and that I had received my dismissal letter.
How did he?
And he asked me to sit. He asked me to sit down. And he informed me that it was because of the decision I took in the Alassana Jammeh's case. For which he had forewarned me.
For which he has forewarned me.
Yes.
Proceed.
And that when State House had asked him, he had no option than to that I was a recalcitrant magistrate.
Otherwise, a stubborn one.
Yes.
And what
thanked him left.
Did you inform Chief Justice that the aggrieved party had a right to appeal?
For Chief Justice ko nyimol me yalongo kidio tela manna kondan fo nyanto so de pour kam kidio nyinka murun kamba.
That question did not cross my mind.
As he ought to have known.
Yes.
Ha.
It didn't cross my mind at all.
O mahani bulang hakilo kono freng.
So you left his office. Did anything else happen afterwards down the line?
Na finde ala office fokudo na soto na ko nyin kere ko laba.
A few weeks later,
Lokundanta obe kola.
I received another letter
Ye lotar do fanan kinyenang.
from the same John Belfort, Judicial Secretary,
Member of Judicial Secretary Mr. Belford
reversing the dismissal order.
Meya lonko ye bayro menkenung ya ko kang falin.
And this time round,
Nyin sila do
the letter was dated 2nd July 2010.
letter onyi ya safolu ngommen walam July karoti fula 2010.
Addressed to his
Very well.
addressed to his worship Yambong Emmanuel Nkia.
Letter onyi ya kimme ye walam aliyam bonwel nkia.
Very well.
Olam.
And the of the letter is rescission of decision of termination.
Nyin kunyi mensa veje walam nyinde ko falendro ke kangola e mentano pour bayro nyin.
Very well.
Olam.
And it reads, I quote,
Letter onyi ay walam nyinde ko mbakaranna.
please be informed that the Judicial Service Commission
Dukare mbe kalam dandin la nyin na ko Judicial Service Commission
has made your termination with immediate effect.
ila bayro nyi ye kango mentano pour ke ne sa intari yarinke.
You are therefore kindly requested to report to the Banjul Magistrate Court as principal magistrate immediately.
Wodo hanin kabi kan ngai kanindro ke bulu pour science ay tari yarinke yete fani tandi Banjul Magistrate Court ke je kitindilal bela nyaton ko di tari yarinke.
By a copy of this letter,
Andu nyin fana ngala copy nyin
the head of accounts is also informed that principal magistrate has been reinstated.
men ya longo wala marle na fulo ku nyala kiti bunda nyindo yol fana nyin na ko principal magistrate Emmanuel Kia ya murundi do ko wala tari yarinke.
That's the letter in it.
Wala mu letter rote fa wondamba.
Wala.
That is the letter.
Wala letter ole phone.
How did you feel about being reinstated?
Biri ye murundi do ko nyin na kete fe nyaadi le.
I was against,
Ketanya tere makoti.
It was normal.
and because there was no
Ani nyimu kula de alon ko akakele. Adalta le kake.
This was normal. This is what you
I had not known it to be normal.
Ntele ngajele ko nyimuko mandali kela.
well, the abnormal, the abominable became accepted in James Gambia.
Bare jammela Gambia jawo wato la ko le me ko nyanno ay keta kula de me alon ko mol kane mu ike mutale keta kake.
You agree?
Isonta.
So, well, I cannot dispute that.
Nte ososo nola.
So did you eventually come to learn about the reasons for your reinstatement?
Oh, nyato do mande inata na lonne ko dalilo me ya sabu ye murundi do ko laban.
Yes.
Hang.
Out of, the desire to know, I met Pahari Jame.
Ntata nimpahari Jamenyo.
What was he? What position did he
Solicitor General at the time.
Pahari mumale babulu watu la Solicitor General
makamo wala. Atelem Solicitor General tinutumbo.
And
I sought to know from him. I was just expressing doubts. And he said me,
and I was translating
to me
that when President Jammeh read my judgment in that case, he was convinced that I did nothing wrong.
And As a result,
and that is why I was reinstated.
what did you come to learn from that action?
It sent a very strong message that on matters which President Jammeh had an interest,
President Jammeh
you had to play along the lines, in protecting its interest rather than doing just
and what would happen?
Otherwise, you pay the price.
But was this the only instance? Chief Justice Agim sought to interfere with your decisions?
Not at all.
Give another example. Tell us about the Bunsane case.
Yes. Bunsane was standing before me. He was being represented by Barrister Kenyang.
Barrister Kebasanyang lawyer wala beluring Bunsane o kitoto.
Okay. Proceed.
And
then
at some point,
betunko aketanya memma
Chief Justice Agim summoned me again to his office.
Chief Justice Agim ayong kumandi kongatandang kungala ala office okon.
And instructed me to discharge and acquit Bunsane.
Anyi yamarudina ko woto Bunsane ninga kito ta nsi kito te nyinkanga bula ka abondi ko nyinkono nsi abula eta.
Do you recall what Bunsane was charged with?
Nyim Bunsane fo hakilo sa mutano yemuntu mirsiva nyaadi le deng akangoda.
Yeah, it was something concerning, I think he mismanaged some money when he was Director General. When he was Director General of the then NDEA.
Utumo atelem Director General T NDEA.
Standing for National Drug Enforcement Agency.
Agency. Yes, please.
And how did you deal with the case?
Bunsane had made a confessional statement.
Bunsane kumakango fo itandiko afango menketa ayole fo.
Haven't behaved in that dishonest manner. I convicted him based on that evidence.
In spite of actions of the Chief Justice.
Yes.
So you followed evidence in succumbing to instructions.
Perfectly.
And how did the Chief Justice?
I was later to understand that Bunsane had been instrumental in the appointment of Chief Justice Agim as Justice of the Gambia.
Chief Justice Agim Tala kake gabankola Chief Justice Ailodula Bambandin Tamandije.
So,
and after my judgment in that case,
Proceed.
Chief Justice Agim persuaded Keba Sanyang
Chief Justice Ajim anatani
to file an appeal.
To file an appeal.
To file an appeal so that he could manage it, the acquittal at the appeal.
Puru asikiti sain kango kaning. Na kiti sain kango kaning isalu feuja nyama me yalonko wale ba kendila bunsane.
Keba file an appeal.
Keba na
He did not.
Make.
But
Keba Sanyang is there to testify.
Did that impact your relationship with Justice Agim?
For narna ilanya hadamaya narna kole anduro dundi in Justice Ajim Tiamalaba.
It only solved the existing rift that we had.
Munta walio membije ayola sembo warandi.
How about the case of these Nigerians, Stanley and Michael
Abeze
and Michael?
In Nigerian banku dimfulo molu
Yes.
kitio ni Michael
Abeze and no,
Yes.
Stanley Agbeze and Michael
Stanley Abeze
And Michael Ifunaya.
Yes, sometimes that should be around 2011, 2012.
Your voice has dropped.
I said sometimes around 2011, 2012.
Watu men kabo 2011 kata 2012 kang
3 Nigerians were apprehended
Nigerian saba inata wolu fintindi.
Nyeta.
3
Mosaba.
Uh-huh. 3 Nigerians were arrested
Nigerian Mosaba muta.
for the murder of a British citizen in Kololi.
Men sababuta tubabola membota England banko kang membe Kololi nu otumo.
They had stabbed him to death
Ya bung ya fa
ya dor
and attempted to burn him in his car.
ilota kang
They stabbed him.
ya sole ya fa fata.
Proceed.
And attempted to burn the car in which he was.
Ilaftanum puru ka moto ta me ya lonka be dukola umtol.
Ilafita moto Janila.
Ilafta moto janila abe moto men kononu.
Proceed, please.
And they were arrested by the police.
Isolu nate muta.
And how did you?
And their trial was going on. At some point,
temboto
the government just executed some 9 DT prison.
sakunda nata mo konon to fa me ya lonko wutumo wulbe kanu.
And Justice Agim fell into his office
And Justice Agim anatang kumandi kota ke ala ofisoto
to say to me that these people were us.
nyimolu bele ko mbadingolu
I should not them
ko manyana wulu soronna
because they will be killed.
katu be fala
katu be fala le ninge sorong.
But based on the evidence again,
Bari ne ajube CDRO mem finta ko nyin kono kota ke
2 of these convicts
mo fula be kono wolu ne wolu soronne num
were guilty.
pour nyin kamala ko
No.
And one of them was found not guilty.
loi e kitindile ye muta e boyta. The other one
2 were guilty, 1 was not guilty.
loi mo fulolu muta kilindo nyin loi mo muta.
So What was the sentence?
Yes,
I convicted the two. I sentenced them to death according to the laws of the Gambia.
And at the time, we had the death penalty.
The death penalty was still there.
How did the Chief Justice react this time around?
Chief Justice
In fact, he almost physically assaulted me. And I remember that he had summoned me in the presence of a younger magistrate from Cameroon to inform me that he was going to deal with me. And because of that, I had one of the worst treatment that any judge of the High Court had in the Gambia.
We would come to that. We would come to the treatment. But kindly tell us about the case of Sidik Asemota.
Sidik Asimota Kidionyin Kumafanya Orobang.
Sidik Asimota was a reporter, a court reporter,
Sidik Asimota
working with the Observer newspaper at the time.
Newspaper kibar kaito me ya lonko utumo abije.
I was dealing with a case of embezzlement.
Me ya lonko aketa kodi tinyaleti.
Some young Gambians had bypassed the, how do they call it? My brain is a bit hot.
Let's cool it down a little.
you know, they had a cease past the network. And so they had some free cards.
That was the slave SIM cards, the false SIM.
Yes. SIM cards, yes. So,
yes.
To put it to bypass the official rates.
Yes.
And billing system.
Yeah.
So when they were arrested,
it was a case of fraud.
The case
for fraud, yes.
Proceed.
Gamtel had done the calculations according to the minutes that they had used.
Proceed.
So there was a fixed amount. And these people when they came to court,
and these people,
the DPP who was prosecuting the case,
we missed something. And these people, we missed something.
Came to court. People wanted to plead guilty. And the
DPP me yalon katalom kitindila nyaton koti.
His name was Bakun. Asked for a date because he wanted In fact, he applied that. He applied that if the guy splitted, I should find that was lesser than the amount of the debt.
Nsi kule kang meyalonko misanolem satara ate kolo nangamo sila itelie men jani
as a sign of mitigation.
Puru sike kuti membe kulu sono yandila.
And I told him that if the state was willing to make some concession, let them go and amend the charge.
Nimbanko lafta yam fada kala nyili woto tumiro melate yang isifereke ye kufalinji
and reduce the amount.
Andun kolo nangamo men ya jani isiatala.
Otherwise, I was going to find them guilty on the face the charge and convict them accordingly. And so he withdrew his application, and the people maintained their plea of guilt. I convicted them. And asked them to pay, order them to pay as fine the amounts they had defrauded the state. Then following morning,
your voice has stopped again.
The following morning,
Samanda,
I read from the Observer newspaper an article written by Asimota, Siddiq Asim.
No, there is a lot of noise I'm hearing. I don't know where it's coming from.
Could you take off your earpiece? Could you take it off? And maybe
yes, I've taken it off.
Yes, and just listen. Maybe you would hear. Could you kindly proceed, please?
So, the following morning, I read from Observer newspaper an article written by Siddiq Asimota, in which Siddiq was stating that I had convicted the accused persons and ordered them to pay an amount lesser than the amount for pleaded guilty. I saw that as contempt of court.
And then?
And so I caused Siddiq's arrest. Because I knew that information was that article was deliberate. So when Siddiq was arrested, he was supposed to appear in court the next day. And the next day was supposed to be a Monday, since he was arrested on a Friday. Justice Agim again sought to prevail on me to release Siddiq Asimota.
Justice Agim kotake ay fero bulindi puru nsi Asimota.
I disobeyed him again. And so Siddiq Asimota was brought to court. And while in court, he himself accepted that he was not in court the day the judgment was delivered. And that he had been given the information by the Director of Public Prosecution. I cautioned him and advised him to verify his facts before he publishes next time. That was another dealing crisis between me and Justice Agim.
And there's post this case of Abdullah Njai and Aliulo. Could you tell us about involved in that case?
Yes. That case again was filed by way of habeas.
Kito fanang ya dundi nyameng habeas corpus ndije wolem kakwo diakuya londi
by Bori S2
wala ibaluri wolem diakuyati
by Ture.
The case was filed.
These two gentlemen, had been charged in connection with the 2006 abortive coup. One of them was charged with participation. No, I think both of them were charged with concealment. Both of them were charged with concealment. But on the face, when I looked at the court paper, at the police investigation reports, the cautionary statements, I discovered that Abdullah Njai had called the state guard commander to inform him once he knew that there was this plot. So the element of concealment could not stand. So I drew the attention of the Director of Public Prosecution to that fact.
Director of Public Prosecution
and suggested to him that it was not honorable for him to discontinue, to withdraw that particular accused person and release him. The next day, when I came to work, I discovered a sealed envelope in my office, in which it was stated that the whole idea not to release Abdullah Njai was that if he is released, based on the fact that he had informed Captain Serin Modunjai of the coup plot, then Captain Serin Modunjai will be dismissed. So in protecting Captain Serin Modunjai, I should do everything to convict Abdullah Njai.
Interesting.
I found this to be unreasonable.
We missed something. he did say that the letter said, I should do everything to protect Captain Serigne Modou Njie by convicting Abdullah Njie.
Letro ñing ko ñim fana fota jele ko ntenta fero be kelale pour que Ablaye Ndiaye Serigne Modou hani pour que Ablaye Ndiaye soro ñing kamala Captain Serigne Modou Ndiaye ka kanta ka tankdi e mantoroma.
Proceed.
I found this unreasonable.
Nataje ko ñing aman dalila soto.
And in my judgment, I acquitted Abdullah Njie. And I motivated his acquittal on the grounds that he had informed Captain Serigne once he learned of the coup plot.
But this letter that you received, was it silent as to the consequences that if you did not do what was instructed?
It was loaded with threat.
What?
And of course, there was this comment. You will not live to regret.
And in spite of threat, you convicted.
Yes. I acquitted. I acquitted Abdullah Njie. The other accused person was convicted.
This particular was not from Justice Ajim, correct?
No, it was not from Ajim. So I understood that threat from the NIA and the DPP working together.
Another issue arose in that case. The pre-trial period of lengthy period of pre-trial of Abdullah Njie.
Abdullah Njie la mutoni waro nyimbe kono wati jamu nyinkono ala kiti nyinkono.
Yes. They had been held in custody for over 6 years without trial. And that the process was initiated by way of habeas corpus.
Couldn't it be interpreted the extensive delay in bringing or the failure or the lack of prosecution was intended mainly to seal the other Mr. Njie?
I think that was the deliberate intention.
That's sad. And still you were faced a case in which the NIA was also interested.
Yes.
Otan's colleague Sow and Demba Balde.
Otan's colleague Kasum
Sow and Demba Balde. Tell us about it.
In case, 3 senior NIA operatives, I cannot recollect their names.
Proceed.
Actually, tricked some Gambians to bail. Some microfinance fraudsters Nigeria and from had opened something like a small bank where they collected money from Gambians and then they wanted to run away. So when they were arrested,
when I'm translating, if you speak, I will not be able to get you.
All right.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So when these people were arrested, these NIA operatives tricked these Gambians to take them on bail as shorties. At a later stage, these Gambians effectively fled the country. And the DPP filed an application before me for the forfeiture of the bonds.
For the forfeiture of the bond.
Of the bail bonds.
Ye guarantee min bulaje pour ya
di masala ya
menu ye bail woliye sanko menke pour sala.
Proceed.
And Barrister Tuman Gay was lawyer for these three.
No, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
And Tuman Gay,
you can't hear me now.
Three sorties.
Now, usually, the application for the extraction of bail is done by emotion, by way of emotion. So it's affidavit evidence.
No, we can't get you.
Usually, on the issue of application for fear of bail, it is done by motion. It is based on affidavit evidence.
Runing moye mobile ay menu bail ni wol nata bore ning peta malaje akana tara laring school la sede akolle kan.
David evidence.
Yes. So
kuma kangol lel di safiroto.
Proceed.
When the DPP filed motion,
in DPP ya atela fangola kumakangulu safi
Atumange filed a counter affidavit. And it became clear that we needed oral evidence to settle the disputing contradictory evidence. So I ordered that the NIA operatives should appear in person so as to be cross-examined. After my order was served, when my order was sent, NIA Director General, Mr. Baji.
Mr. Baji
was NIA Deputy Director at the time.
I tell him, Director Nolan Koti, NIA.
Which Baji?
Baji Juma.
Yankuba Baji.
Yankuba Baji.
Proceed.
He came to this to request that I should only allow the operatives to swear to an affidavit and not to appear in person. I told him that see how those operatives would disobey the court order. Because he sought to impress me that NIA operatives don't appear in court.
They can fare badges everywhere in town and boast about being NIA, but they cannot appear in court and identify themselves as such.
So I told him that if those NIA operatives did not appear in court, I was going to dismiss the case.
Did they appear?
They did not appear. I dismissed.
And was that?
And time, I started getting attacks on integrity, attack threats on my true phone, on the internet.
Who did you?
Which aggravated.
Did you suspect was responsible for all these threats?
It was directly the NIA.
And was that the encounter you had with Mr. Yankuba Baji?
No. During the trial of Justice Wowo, Yankuba Baji approached me. This time he did not come to my office. I met him at the petrol station at the Rusubi turntable. I was going to my house. I lived at Rusubi. And I had stopped there to get fuel. And he had informed me that it was not the intention of the state to convict Wowo, and that I should do everything to acquit him.
Why were they prosecuting him?
In fact, I told him that I'm going to my court, and that the investigations had been carried by NIA and the other people. And that if the state was not interested in prosecuting him, they could discontinue. But for as long as Wowo was before, I was going to deal with him according to the law. If he is not guilty, I will acquit him. If he is guilty, I will convict and sentence him accordingly.
How did he react?
He wasn't happy with that response.
Was that the only interference he received from on that case?
No, there was also what they call Alaji Mo.
What's his?
That is the Wisa Job. Idrissa Job. Idrissa Job.
Which incident?
But I think he was working for the NDEA everywhere.
What do you mean by he was everywhere?
He was at the police, he was at the NDA, he was at the A, he was everywhere. He was a kind of top cop. He was everywhere.
Top cop.
Top. And for him, he was more frontal.
Nyine sembo warta ko ka nyatilim ko la men ya lon ko ni silamanta,
because when he also
what did he demand?
I'm on a cunning.
He made the same demand that Yankuba Baje made. And man was the same. And I remember vividly that he spoke to me in some Creole.
Speak that language.
I understand, but I don't have a kind of Creole pidgin base in Cameroon as well.
So,
but he had made me to understand that I was now behaving as if I was a big man, and that they were going to size me down. Of course, I understood that to mean that they were going to come after.
And how deal with the case?
I dealt with that case as any other case before me. Counts for which I believed, I was convinced that Justice Wowo was guilty, I convicted him. Those I thought he was not guilty, I acquitted him. But
after the encounter,
I've been particular about that judgment because I noticed that it went up to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court upheld my judgment in the main. Supreme Court
they upheld mine in the main. The most important part.
Yes.
Thank you. And
now after that case, after that piece of encounter with Baje and Idrissa Job, I witnessed the highest level of intimidation
nata kuje me ya lonko wole mu silandir kolu kuma bati asembe maba
in the blackmail
munta ya kata
and direct threats.
And direct threats.
At some point in the night, at about 1 a.m., 2 a.m., I will receive anonymous calls pick the calls. Nobody will be talking from the other side. And when I drop, they will come. And I submitted my phone and they kind of, a kind of investigation check who had the number had been using in calling me frequently. And it showed that the SIM card registered in anybody's name, and that the phone had not been used with any other SIM card. The current of Interior, Yankuba Sonko,
member minister ya Bankonya la Utumo Yankuba Sonko Utembo,
advised it was not ordinary people who were conducting the threats.
Mole menia lonko ibe silandiro leke kamen mumo kensiang ludama.
He advised me to be careful.
What did you understand him to when he said these were not ordinary people?
I told him to be saying that they are NIA people. Even without him saying so, I had the feeling that they were the ones behind it. In fact, they had alert that I had my birth certificate from Sierra Leone. I was not a qualified lawyer in Cameroon. And that I met with lawyer Osenu Dabo secretly to negotiate and compromise the trial of Amadou Sane. And that I had also facilitated the escape of Benedict Jame and Fatou from the Gambia. They even went as far as calling my siblings to inform them that I had been arrested in the Gambia for peddling drugs.
Say that I was arrested
with drugs. And all these things were online.
Did this
I approached the Chief Justice and I requested the Chief Justice to make a public statement that I had never submitted any document to judiciary suggesting that I was from Sierra Leone law. The chief advised that the most competent person to issue press statements was the Attorney General.
Chief Justice ya marodi mo yalonko asikumakangulu fintindi o karola.
Were you working for the Attorney?
I approached the Attorney General. She was reticent.
Who was she?
Mama Fatima Singate at the time.
Mama Fatima Singate.
And what did she say to you?
Mama Fatima Singate.
No, at that time she just said if the NIA people are doing their investigations, I should allow them to investigations.
Was that investigations or publication or rather a smear campaign?
I believe it was a smear campaign. Because all the documents I said at the PMO, where I was recruited as State Council, had no bed Sierra Leone. So I did not see where that was coming from.
Well, all this is interesting, but your relationship with Ajim too was interesting. But was this the way in which he managed the judiciary? Tell us about his relationship with Richard.
You know, when Moses Richards was relieved, judge.
What?
When he was removed as judge, relieved.
When he was as judge, Agim openly stated that he had information that Richards believed that he was behind his removal as a judge. And he vowed that he was going to pin Richards down.
Proceed.
I'm taking a meeting. Yes, so at some point, Richards wrote a letter on behalf of his client, and that letter was addressed to Sheriff Division. At the time, Magistrate Efim Joseph was the sheriff. And because both of us came from Cameroon, we had a very close relationship.
Attending Joseph Ying.
Okay. I did direct.
So Efim immediately wrote back answering Moses' concerns. But later in time, when Agim's attention was drawn to the letter Moses had written to the Sheriff Division,
Joseph letter menki ki Sheriff's Division,
Agim wrote out a different reply.
Agim nata saferdo ke memu jabiroti jabir fasondo,
copying Office of the President,
kadoki president wala office auto
and copying some other dignitaries
anen kaletro nyin copy fananki nyaton kadoliye
in which he sought to create the impression that Moses was unpatriotic and was attacking the state.
So he effectively set him up with the state and indirectly reported him to the most important people who can cause Moses Richard some trouble.
Amonta ke ay nyim parende ka Moses kumoni banko takandida kindi nyola anata ala ko kibaro fanandi banko mo kumalula pour nyin kamala isa jube nyaaja wola
effectively. But when he wrote out this letter, he gave the manuscript to Ephraim to type on his computer and signed it. I read the manuscript myself.
I beg your pardon?
I read the manuscript.
I read the manuscript myself.
See?
And if you saw the two letters that left the sheriff division,
your voice has dropped again.
And if you
see the two letters that left the sheriff division, you will see from the language that the authors are different. And so when that letter got to the office of the president, Richard was arrested. Could interest you to know that at that time, Richard Chenge was the director of public prosecution. And when Richard Chenge sought to object to the arrest and prosecution of Richards, he was expelled from the country.
He was expelled from the country.
That is the immediate reason why Richard Chenge was dismissed as director of public prosecution.
Of course.
And when the matter went to court,
just a moment, of course, Richard Chenge could only have been sacked by Yaya Jammeh.
And Richard Chenge, Yaya Jammeh, running kera mubekera moti mensabaino. Kodi.
When that matter went to court,
that signify your acceptance of that proposition?
I know that the position of director of P is a constitutional position.
O palace direct prosecution kulo membe bankola constitution wala bankola sarta buku bijel
would have only been President Jammeh.
And President Jammeh.
Yes, for that kind of reason.
Proceed, please.
Wait and time.
Now, when that matter and the trial was being carried out, there was
Chenge's replacement obliged to have Moses Richards prosecuted, arrested.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. During the trial of Moses court, the lawyers were agitating. There was tension. And everybody thought that the prosecutions should be dropped.
I didn't get the last part of your statement.
Prosecutions.
That the prosecution should be dropped.
In your own view, based on your insider info, your belief is that Chief Justice Ajim set up Moses Richards in order to have prosecuted.
Chief Justice Ajim ay dolingo ayola Moses Richard nyin kamala ko isaja bulusil nyame isa kitindi.
Just out of anger, out of spite of what he believed Moses Richards may have said.
Kamfa kono dron ngani kono dron me alon ko ata jikire nyine ko Moses Richard ay wala ke.
That was the kind of person he was.
Why do you was the kind of person he was? Could you kindly give us another example of such revenge using the justice sector institution?
Yes, the case of Gombo Ture.
The case of
Gombo Ture
la Quito.
Gombo Ture
la Quito, yes.
Yes, what happened in that case?
In that case, Gombo Ture was accused.
Gombo Ture atelo moti mentumi.
And the VC, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Gambia,
Vice Chancellor, Chancellor no manko member Gambia University of
was a star witness for the prosecution.
What was Gombo Ture charged with?
He was also charged with false information. And at that time, the Vice Chancellor was Professor Muhammadu Kar.
Chancellor Professor Muhammadu Kar,
who also had some rift with Chief Justice Agim.
What was the rift and why?
Justice Agim used to be an adjunct lecturer at the University of the and at some point, the West African Insurance Institute conferred Justice Agim with a professorship.
Justice Ajimla me along kolem Professor Makamoti.
But Professor Muhammadu Kar refused to recognize Agim as a professor.
Was Agim happy with that?
He wasn't happy. And for that reason, he stopped in the University of the Gambia.
And did he leave it at that?
Not at all. So when the case of Gombo Ture came up, he used it directly to attack person and integrity of Professor Kar.
How did he do that?
In fact, he personally wrote the judgment that was read by the magistrate.
Was it at magistrate's court level or at high court level?
It was at magistrate court level.
And
A.T. Alagbe was a trial magistrate.
Alagbe was the trial magistrate. How do you know how do you know that Chief Justice Ajim wrote the judgment instead of Magistrate Ite?
Iti alon nyaade le ko Chief Justice Ajim atele nyin kiti o nyin kundu atela safe ye Alagbe di me alon ko atela magistrate o wato wala o ma safe.
First, the language, which was more like Agim's language, like Alagbe's language.
And what else?
And secondly, Alagbe himself had practical difficulties in reading the judgment, in pronouncing certain words.
Which signifies, in your view, that
he was not the author of the judgment.
Meaning that it was written for him.
It was written for him.
Him to read out.
Yes. And that judgment, if you would try to get a copy of that judgment, and you would kind of catching attacks that were made on the person of Professor.
Challenge my tip. I attack your integrity and your qualifications also.
Of course.
Tit for tat, right?
That is what happened. But the intention we had made known was that Professor Carr will be used as the Vice Chancellor of the University of the Gambia.
Just like he moved himself as a lecturer from the University of the Gambia. So Professor Carr will stay in equal measure.
In equal measure. So, but unfortunately that did not happen.
So no wonder you call Ajim as the worst Chief Justice ever for you to
under my eyes. Yes.
But you also did other cases of prolonged detention, prolonged pretrial detention.
Yes, in this
Justice Ajim Lamara Lolekoro.
Yes, in of 2013, the summer vacation, there was a project by an organization called Prison Fellowship International or something like that, in which they intended to fund a project that would decongest the prisons by fast-tracking cases where people have been in detention for long. So I was asked to sit on that session, and I think the other lawyers who were recruited in that session included Cecilia Jahati, and there was Olimatu Dano for the state. During those sessions, there were two cases in which the state council informed the court that they could not trace the case files. After adjourning the matter a series of times, I dismissed the cases, ordering the immediate release of the detainees. This was included in my final report, which I made at the end of the summer session. And this report went to State House. I understand that the police were confronted and they showed that they had transferred the file to the Attorney General's chambers. And so it became an obligation for the AG chambers to justify why they couldn't see the case files.
I beg your pardon? Your voice dropped again.
It became the duty for the Attorney General's chambers to show why, or to explain how they couldn't file the case files. So the Attorney General invited me to her office. It's Justice Mama Fatima Singate.
This was
Justice Mama Fatima Singate. She invited me to her office. After getting what had happened in court, she told me directly that she was going to protect the State Council. In her response to State House.
Was that normal? That the Attorney General would call in a judge to make such pronouncements?
It's outrageous.
Proceed.
And because I was not privy to the concerns that have been raised on that particular from State House, and because I was not privy of what adverse comments the attorney will make in her response, coupled with the incessant threats that I had been receiving prior to that time, or up to that time, I started thinking that it was proper for me to sign out.
And you mean resign the position?
Yes, of course, because the thing was coming so close. And so on the 5th of February, I went to court I was informed that the Chief Justice had been sacked.
Chief Justice Baile ala dokola.
And that her words were unknown.
And that would be Chief Justice Mel Ajiman.
Ajiman. That was very frightening to me.
Do you know how?
Because of course.
Tell us.
Chief Justice Agiman had replaced Justice Wowo.
Chief Justice Agiman at Joseph Wowo la Palasoleto.
And what that meant was that the Nigerian hegemony in the judiciary had come to an end. Secondly, Agi did not subscribe to the kind of judicial politics that Agi and Wowo would have been very used to.
Ajaman madabula kitibda ni lua la politiko luto meni ya lonko wowo aning ajimbe melamandi kanu.
She was more on the side of an upright judiciary, a strong judiciary,
kitibunda tilindungo,
and so did not receive these NIA agents in our office or deal with them. And they had started making series of complaints again. I know this because each time I went to discuss my challenges with her as Chief Justice, she would tell me complaints that she had been having. And so I believe that her dismissal was the fallout of this dirty fight from the NIA.
Who in the NIA would that have?
They wish
Malti NIA.
You can only think Baji, Yankuba Baji.
Proceed.
So once I learned that she had been relieved, and that her whereabouts were unknown, I concluded that the next person will be me. So that same day I left and went home. I met a few friends and I told them of my decision to leave the country. And so I wrote my resignation that same day. But before writing my resignation, I received a call. I received a call from Gilbert.
Gilbert.
Yeah, Gilbert was a military officer serving in the State House. He used to be. Yes, Gilbert, I had come to know Gilbert from my very close friend Lamin Sedi. And so when I go to Lamin Sedi's house sometimes in the evening, I will meet Gilbert there. So that day he called me to inform me that he has heard of the dismissal of the Chief Justice and that I was being considered to be the appointed Chief Justice. That was even a more reason that motivated my departure, my resignation.
That's further reinforced.
Shortly after, yes. Shortly after, I received another from Justice Mama Fatima Singate, and he's tried to show concern that he had shown me in the judiciary, and they told her I'd gone home because I was sick. That is the reason I had left in my office before going home. But I had never received that kind of caring call from Justice Masingati since I joined the judiciary. And she said to me she wanted me to meet her in the office the following day for some official discussion. I did not ask her what the official discussions were, but I convinced myself that I had to resign. I wrote out my resignation letter. Later that evening, one of my security guards in the house, Gibu Dem.
What's the name?
Gibu Dem.
Gibu Dem.
Yes, Gibu Dem.
Gibu Dem.
Gibu Dem took me in his taxi and drove me out of the Gambia.
I am Samba Kamfintin the Gambia.
Using the Kanilai road and crossing there that goes to Farafeni, and we walked to the Senegalese border where I crossed into Senegal, and that is how I left the country.
Why did you do all that?
There was sufficient reason for me to fear. If I had resigned while in the Gambia, I would have been arrested. Not because I have done anything wrong, but because I had seen anybody who had resigned in that manner stay in the Gambia. And I equally feared that even if I were not arrested, I could be killed by the same NIA operatives who have been coming after me.
And what happened to the resignation letter you had written?
I left that resignation letter with my driver, and he didn't know where I was going to. But I told him to drive my official car to the judiciary the next morning and to hand that letter to the judicial secretary.
And you certain he did?
When I got to, he did. When I got to Senegal, that morning, I sent a copy.
I sent a copy.
I sent a soft copy. I sent a soft copy to the Attorney General and to Justice Salawada.
Justice Salawada.
Justice Salawada was then the president of the Court of Appeal.
Justice Salawada,
informing them of what?
Of my resignation. But also that I had already left the Gambia.
Did you ultimately receive a response?
Yeah, a while, about 1 week or thereabout, I received a copy from the IT officer of the judiciary.
He
sent me a letter written by the judicial secretary acknowledging receipt of my resignation and thanking me for the services I've rendered to the judiciary.
And they accepted.
I didn't hear. I didn't have any further communication with the judiciary until sometimes in February 20. Was it February? No. Sometimes again in June 2014.
For June 2014.
When my attention was drawn to a newspaper publication in the Punch newspaper, which carried the caption, Justice Emmanuel Nkeya wanted.
Justice Manuel
Now, because the Point newspaper is simultaneously accessible online,
online computer.
I went online and read the article myself. And it suggested that my pictures have been pasted in the Greater Banjul area. In the police stations in around the Greater Banjul area there, suggesting that I'm being wanted. I saw this as an extension of the campaign of blackmail and calumny against me. And I believe that it had been planted by the NIA. Particularly Yankuba Baji. So because up till today, nobody has told me what I have done. to have been declared wanted in the Gambia. I have made open inquiries through the Attorney General's chambers, several letters. They are unable to say anything. And of course, they cannot say anything because there is nothing.
In your experiences in Gambia, if you were to pick the two worst institutions that were most antithetical to a democratic society in Gambia during the period in which you worked here, which would be those two institutions?
The NIA and the judiciary.
wolle musila bula lalu ti tilbalolu men ya lonko e ka kolu du nyoto be min tole fola ako NIA and where and kiti bunda
and the judiciary.
Yes.
And if you were to choose three personalities in the service of the government of the Gambia who were most detrimental to democracy and human rights in this country during the period here, who would you choose?
Niko ye mo sabatombo meni alonko wolle keta mo sangati tajirewolu nyimbanko la mansa kunda kono wato men itebe do ko la jang itebe mo juma nyole nyala tombona.
Mr. Fall. Well, I would say there are two that are very, very immediately. Yankuba Baji, Idrissa Job,
and Yankuba Baji.
I would not like to call it name.
And where would you rank Chief Justice Agim?
Chief Justice Agim,
I think he should fall on the fourth. But I don't want to name him as the third.
No further questions, Justice Inkia. Thank you for assisting.
Thank you.
Quite an indictment. Thank you very much, Chamber Council, and thank you, Justice Nkia.
Kiaman ko Mbarabaka Council in Mbarabaka Kisedo, Justice Nkia.
Commissioners, if you have any questions,
Silang Commissioner Nimo and Yinkaros of the Sedo is Itandi.
That's somebody doing. If you have any concluding remarks, please proceed to make them now.
Silang Justice Nkia, Econia Kumosoro, Belaflekela Kumo Dasoro and
Do you have any
closing remarks by me?
Yes.
Mr. Fall.
Mr. Fall.
Yes, my lord.
There is one thing I would like to say to Gambians. And that is something that has boggled my conscience for a long time. After I left the Gambia, I engaged in a series of letters directly to President Jammeh. In which I was trying to prick his conscience to permit the return to the Gambia.
I beg your pardon? To permit the return to the Gambia.
Of my orderly or the residential guard Gibu them.
Presidential guard many alonko ketala kantarla ti police adiala.
Of my orderly Gibu them.
Yes. He was actually my residential guard. You know, when Gibu them assisted me to leave the Gambia, his other colleagues who were on guard reported him to the police command.
They what?
Reported it to the police command.
And the police sought to arrest him. He fled the Gambia. And he got stuck at some point in Senegal for long. And there was no green light for him to return to Gambia. And he chose to embark on the back way to go to Italy. At the time, we had series of cases of people dying on the back way. I feared earnestly that Gibu them could die. And I feared that if he had died, his whole blood would be on my head. I sought to persuade him to come over to Cameroon, live with me. But he seemed to be more determined to use the back way, to go back to the Gambia. So there was no other way for me to cause him to go back to the Gambia than to plead to President Jammeh directly. And I wrote a series of letters to President Jammeh, tending to support his actions, tending to support his policies, even when they were undemocratic. But at the end of each of these letters, I will always plead for the return of Gibu them. There was one thing that I noticed, that in all these letters, President Jammeh made personal replies to me. In most of them, he only solicited that I should return and work in the Gambia. But he ignored the plea for Gibu them to return. But fortunately, Gibu them eventually entered Italy safe. I was able to make an affidavit for him, for which he was granted asylum. I know as a fact that many Gambians find my letters to President Jammeh unreconcilable with my person
I beg your pardon?
They find it incompatible with my standing and my own beliefs. And it enraged a large majority of Gambians. I want to use the opportunity, first and foremost, to clarify the background, the context under which these letters were reading, and to say that for the embarrassment and care it has caused them, I'm truly sorry. I wish that the Gambia will come out of this process properly healed and move forward to one good democratic nation. That's my last statement for Gambia. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Justice Mkaya. Money. And my sincere apologies for technical and logistics reasons. We started a bit late with you. You were very patient to hang around and then wait for us to come to you. Thank you so much.
Ay watu ta ngaminimini umenke aning masingula dea sababu ya sabu kulu dukundita hanufo watu menjanimbe sotolata iye baturoke hanufo kulu tembeta inatela sede roke inumbara.
Thank you very much, Emma, for a very, very helpful testimony in throwing some light on the judiciary, how it functioned during the period that you were here.
Numba la sede yaro kang inata kulu lanke ne makaita ndi wotumo na kiti bunda betama kanu nyami wala ye kuja mabonye nyoto jembe numbara la wala.
Thank you again.
Inumbara kotake ila sede yaro kang.
Council, I believe you have some submissions for exhibit.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have two documents I would wish to have exhibit. The dismissal letter dated 17 June 2010, addressed to His Worship A.E. Inkia, should be exhibit 226 if accepted, and the reinstatement letter dated 2nd July 2010 should be exhibit 226A.
A as in apple?
A as in apple.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Indeed,
thank you very much.
Requests are granted. Thank you again very much indeed. We are coming back tomorrow morning. The State House has just announced that tomorrow is not a public holiday in the Gambia. So tomorrow, 10 o'clock, we will resume our proceedings.
Well, Mr. Chair, of course, we were all laboring under the impression that tomorrow is a public holiday. Wow. And as such, we did not make any arrangements for a hearing tomorrow. But nonetheless, I would make my best effort to see to it that we have a witness tomorrow. If it works out, well, so be it. If it doesn't work out, it wasn't our fault that we only came to learn at 5 p.m. that tomorrow is not a public holiday.
You use your best endeavors to get some of those vehicles out of the mud. So use your best endeavors to get wood tomorrow.
As always, we would do our best. For 3 years, we've only not had a hearing when we were supposed to. I think about 3 times. That I believe is an unbeatable record. Nonetheless, we would make our best effort.
Splendid. And
thank you very much.
If there is any development on it, either meeting tomorrow or not meeting, we would make some announcement.
Indeed. Thank you very much.
But thank you all very much indeed. Maybe see you tomorrow, maybe not. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.